morning and welcome to Breakfast at Wolferman's Bakery, a monthly series where we talk about all things breakfast. We're going to share some practical tips and recipes with you for the next half hour because who the heck has an hour for breakfast? Thank you for joining us this morning for our second show. How many of you were here for our first show? And how many of you are watching from last month? Let us know in the comments below. I'm curious to see who's here for the first time. So Mother's Day is just around the corner and we are talking about how to be a parent with some really great guests. First, we have Liz. Welcome, Liz. We're so glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and one of your favorite things about Mother's Day with your kids.
Hey, how are you? Hey, everybody. Nice to see you all here. So my name is Liz Della Croce and I'm the founder of theLemonBowl.com, and I'm a mom of two boys. They're 7 and 9. And for the last 11 years, I've just been sharing easy, healthy recipes from, my background and just from family recipes, as well as things I learned when I travel and all that type of thing. So food that's easy enough for anyone to make, especially busy moms like all of us.
That's great. Thank you for being here. Next, we have Dr. Chloe Carmichael. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Chloe. Tell us a little bit about yourself and something you love about Mother's Day.
Sure, Lucy, thanks. And Liz, it's so great to be with you this morning as well. So I'm a clinical psychologist as well as the mom of a wonderful 4-year-old boy named Billy. So Mother's Day has become much more special to me as well over the last few years. And I just have to say, I'm super excited to see what Liz is going to cook up today. As a psychologist, I find something so heartwarming about breaking bread together. I just feel like it's such a bonding experience. And I'm kind of an amateur cook myself, Liz. I'm nowhere on your level, but I love being around whether a woman or a man or just a person in the kitchen who knows how to just put things together and cook from the heart.
Liz, I have a 2-year-old who is super picky. I think he only eats like 3 things: macaroni and cheese, chicken nuggets, and chips. So I think you have a breakfast idea that he might like. What are you preparing for us today?
I do. And I also have a picky eater, but my pro tip is don't offer them chicken nuggets. They'll always go for that first. Eliminate who wouldn't pick a chicken nugget?
I know, it's true.
Okay, so you guys, this recipe, I always laugh because Mother's Day is all about breakfast in bed, et cetera, but oftentimes, especially when your kids are really little, like the reality is they're not really able to make these meals that you sometimes see in the magazines. But this is a really easy French toast that, surprise, surprise, I use English muffins for. And I especially love the Wolferman's English muffins. They're really thick. And the secret to good French toast is soaking up all that really good, yummy, cinnamon-scented egg wash. And the more it can really absorb of that, I put some vanilla in it, some nutmeg. It just really makes a big difference. So, it soaks it all up. And then it's just like normal French toast. You pan fry it, you griddle it. And this is a recipe that is easy enough that really, truly, the kids can help make so that you can relax and enjoy your Mother's Day morning.
I love that, Liz. I just have to say, bringing the little ones in as a psychologist, like you said, with the little ones, they're too young to prepare the meals.
Exactly.
But the little ones, they love the tactile experiences the most. I love the idea of letting my little one just dunk one of those big English muffins right into that French.
Right. Kids can always whisk. I think that's an easy task that you can have them help with. They can also help even just carefully splitting the English muffins. I'm slowly letting mine use butter knives. Eventually you have to let them get in the kitchen and help, and it takes a little bit longer and it can be a little bit messier, but I think it's so important, to your point, mentally. And even me, I'm like, I've got 2 boys. I want to raise them where they can actually cook for themselves and help out with that part of, being a human and just so contributing. True. Yeah.
So true. And it actually increases what in psychology we call their sense of self-efficacy, right? Like their ability to do for themselves and to care for themselves. But as moms, I just feel like there's something about nourishing your child that just feels so good and so primal. And when they love it, they love to just get involved. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's a sense of pride at the end for little boys or little girl. I have boys, so I always say little boys, but for a kid to be able to say, hey, look, Mom, I made this French toast. I did this for you. I cut the bananas, whatever it is. I think that really does, to your point, give them confidence, and then kind of helps create, I know I, at a young age, somehow learned that I was a good cook, and that stuck with me, which has helped me as an adult. So kind of building that into them, I think, is so important at a young age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I love the fact that it brings the family together. That's a big tradition of our families, is every Sunday we'd all gather in the kitchen to make Sunday dinner, and we'd all kind of learn our own jobs and get an opportunity to kind of do our own thing, but come together as a family to have something that we all put together. And I still have fond memories of that. Even as an adult, I love doing that with my family when we have an opportunity to get back together. It's awesome.
It's so true. I mean, and on the memory and the emotion and the bonding side, I just have to share as a psychologist that there's something about the smell, right? It's almost a cliche. Like we think like, oh, grandma's kitchen, I smell that apple pie and I feel like home, right? We're bonding over the smell of that cinnamon, Liz, you know, that you're putting in that French toast, and we eat it and we're just ingesting home, right? I love it.
So Liz, is there anything else to preparing we need to know?
All right, I have a really fun pro tip. So I actually right now, we're completely out of maple syrup, which I do need to get taken care of, but I love to take preserves, honestly, almost any flavor, and use that to be the syrup that you can drizzle over your French toast or pancakes, you name it. All you do is literally melt it over a stovetop. You could thin it out a little bit with orange juice if you wish. That's totally optional. I actually just add a little bit of water, and I think, you know, technically you don't even have to add anything. It just depends. I sometimes like to just get a little bit more out of it. In fact, you could probably even just take this glass container and put it in the microwave. But I like to kind of add in a little splash of orange juice, maybe a little bit of water, just to thin it out. And it really just quickly becomes the syrup. And this is now essentially a berry syrup as opposed to a maple syrup. And I just feel like you always have preserves on hand. And, you know, I just feel like it's more flavor. I mean, look, maple syrup's delicious, but who's not going to be like thrilled to see a plate of French toast with a berry sauce on top?
Does that count as fruit? Like, are we eating our fruit?
My son will claim that that's his fruit. I can already see that.
And it looks pretty too. So all three of us are moms, so I feel like this is a good opportunity to ask both of you a little bit about some ways that you think that we can support our moms, especially this year. You know, it's been a very interesting, unique, different year. And I think that there's probably some opportunity, especially as we approach Mother's Day, to support moms and daughters and just the women in our life. So Dr. Chloe, why don't you start? Do you have any ideas of ways that we can support our fellow moms and women?
Sure. I mean, I think one of the things that moms have been going through, it myself included, this past year is, you know, we're trying to balance a lot, right? Like, I mean, my mama bear instincts definitely came out right around this pandemic, and wanting to make sure that we keep our little ones safe. And so even just acknowledging it, right? Like, even just saying to your mom, whether it be for things that she did this year or whether it be for things that she did 20 years ago, if you're able to just say, you know, Mom, I was thinking about some of the things that you did for me, like, you know, the way that you got up early to make me breakfast every day, or, you know, the way that you put so much thought into X, Y, or Z in my life. Just noticing, just expressing it and saying a sincere thank you, I believe, just to me as a mom, that melts my heart.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things that my mom did as we grew up and started to move out was her request for her Mother's Day gift was a letter from all of us kids. And whether it was just a memory that we had together or just kind of a letter of appreciation is kind of what mine always ended up being. Just sharing things that I loved about her or things that we did together. And I just thought that that was such a neat thing, because now that I'm a mom, I think that those are the things that really make an impact, that it's nice to be noticed and remember the things that you've shared with your kids. So I think that's a great idea. I love that. Liz, what do you think? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I do. And also for those of you watching this, leave the comments below. I'd love to hear some of your most memorable Mother's Day experiences, whether it's a gift you received. I know many of you might have grandchildren, maybe something really special the grandkids did for you. And I would especially love to hear how we're all being unique right now when we aren't always in person. So let us know in the comments below as we talk. But I would say for me, really it's all about the homemade items. I always think about, like, as a kid, and you can probably speak to this, Dr. Chloe, but I remember seeing like the clay hands that I gave my mom as a jewelry dish as a kid for Mother's Day, and she had it out, my whole childhood, and seeing that out on display, knowing that my mom was proud of it and, really cherished that gift. I'm sure that instilled something in me that was, helped me be confident and feel loved and all of that. I mean, I am not a psychologist, but that's why I now so value those items. Probably also because I'm not really into the crafting personally. So I'm so grateful that they do it at school with the talented art teachers, so that, I can have those really, really cherished gifts that really help you remember time, especially right now. It's such a unique time in history, and we'll always remember these years. So anything like that, that's just a homemade crafted item, I just think is so special.
I think that's so true, because also as moms, we probably, the things that our kids are going to love us for the most and remember us for the most are not an object we gave them, right? But like the gift that we give of ourselves. And so when our children can do that back and just say, I noticed that, I appreciated that, and here's something I made for you. Like those are definitely the things that are the winners for sure.
Yeah. Do either of you have a favorite gift that you've received from your kids for Mother's Day?
My 4-year-old didn't give me a Mother's Day gift yet, but he gave me a ring. I'm not wearing it right now. I wish I were, but it was so sweet. We were at like a tutoring place, and he gets a prize if he does a good job. And so it was like, again, the ego, I have to admit, is probably like this big thing, because there were all these other moms in the room. And he went over and he said, the first thing, they were like, you can have a prize. And he said, I'm going to get a ring for my mom. And of course, every mom in the room was like, oh, and then like, I was like, that's me. So I think that there's something about those gifts that recognize you as their mother, that really are the most important.
Dr. Chloe, do you have any ideas, especially as, like we mentioned in this time of stresses of being a parent, and just kind of some ways to cope with that?
Yes, Lucy, I think that's such a good question, right? Undoubtedly, myself included, parents are under more stress right now, right? We have so many choices to make, unusual situations. And one of the ways that we can cope as parents is, number one, to have community, right? So it is so important to just recognize that you're not the only person just going through this. So again, like Liz said, we are a community. And so if anybody even just wants to share in the comments, like what your coping strategies have been, ironically, that actually is a coping strategy in and of itself, right? Like just to share and just to talk about things together. Also, I would just add that depending on the age of your children, sharing about the fact that this is a little stressful for you is sometimes actually the best thing you can do for your children. Sometimes parents feel like we have to hide everything from our kids, hide all the stress because we want to, quote, protect them from it. Whereas then we're actually missing the opportunity to model and demonstrate for our children that life throws us curveballs and there's things we don't always know how to deal with. And we have to be able to acknowledge that to our kids and just show them, yeah, sometimes mama doesn't know, and I'm going to figure it out. But that the bottom line 100% is that you're always safe. Daddy and mama, mom and dad, whatever your language is, we're always going to keep you safe. That's what it comes down to. But especially when your kids are a little older, like maybe even 7, 8, etc., you can actually share with them, this is hard on us. We're all like struggling a little bit with this, but I'm so glad we have family and that we're getting through this together. The trick isn't to pretend that you have all the answers, but to be able to show that even if you don't know the answers, you're going to figure it out together. That's the important part.
I think sometimes it's hard to be a little transparent, even just with peers, let alone, your kids who you're supposed to be the example for. But it makes sense that you would show them how to cope and how to kind of manage with those things.
I have little boys and they're like so unfazed, knock on wood, that it's like I'll try to talk to them and explain. They're like, they're not fazed. And it's so funny because, we always worry about letting them see you cry or be stressed. And I think sometimes kids mirror the energy of the parent. And I don't know if it's like, because we try to keep kind of calm, but I was like almost like welcoming them to be a little nervous or scared or anything. And they were like completely not phased at all. But yeah, it's just funny. Don't always assume that kids are gonna like totally panic if you have an emotion.
Yeah.
Well, I just have to say what you did is perfect, because ironically, it's probably because you were creating space and saying, hey, do you have any thing to process here? That's what empowered them to say, Mom, I'm fine, right? Like you actually kind of want your kids to get to that point. Because if we act like the stress is something we have to kind of, tiptoe around or pretend it's not there, then minor stressors become bigger stressors, because then we're also dealing with the stress of having to pretend like they're not there. So the fact that you were just like, oh yeah, mommy's having a moment. You're like, do you need to talk about that? And they're like, no, I don't need to talk about it. I get it. You just had a moment. Like that's really kind of where you want it to go. So that's great, Liz. So another tip that I think is good for moms with stress is actually a tip from my book, Nervous Energy, Harness the Power of Your Anxiety. And in that book, I offer this tip called the to-do list with emotions, because we all know mom's got a big to-do list, right? And so what we do in that to-do list with emotions is we look at our to-do list and then we think about what are the emotions that come with it. And then we layer in a good self-care plan. So for example, I had a client whose to-do list actually included helping his mom to clean out the attic. And he was getting really stalled on that. And he felt like, I must be a bad son. How come I'm not helping my mom out with this? And then we looked at what is the emotion that you experience around that particular task. And lo and behold, he actually said sadness and fear. And I said, why? And he said, because I feel like this is, the first step of recognizing that my mom's not going to be here forever. And cleaning out the attic is, kind of recognizing that. And the beauty, again, of recognizing what the vulnerable feelings are is that then we can layer in self-care plans. So his self-care plan was then to say, well, maybe I should take that nervous energy that I feel about this and direct it towards doing a legacy interview with my mom. And so he set up the video cameras and made a list of 3 or 4 good stories that he loves the way his mom tells. And then he made 3 or 4 questions that he wanted to ask his mom and captured her on video doing that. So he listened to that emotion that he was feeling that was blocking him on his to-do list. And he layered in that self-care plan so that he could actually turn it into a moment of fulfillment. So for tips for moms or for people just that have moms in general, that to-do list with emotions can be a nice way to handle the stress that we could be feeling with all these balls in the air that we have right now.
I like that. And just associating why you may not be accomplishing some of your things on your to-do list while also maintaining some care for yourself. You obviously spend a lot of time cooking because it's your career, right? So what kind of things do you do to unwind? Is cooking ever one of them, or do you have other things that keep you in your calm state?
Yeah, I would say second to cooking is for sure working out. And guys, if you're listening, let me know below if anyone else relates. Do you guys play tennis, go for a walk? Does anybody else just need to burn some calories, get some fresh air, whatever, punch a bag in kickboxing class, whatever it might be, chime in below. But I think that especially with, everything going on, especially when we were first kind of like, dealing with the pandemic, it was just so nice to go outside or to go on a bike ride, just to even like escape the family or the house or the kids. Like, it was just so nice to have a little bit of freedom with like a bike ride. I remember that so well. But truth be told, pandemic or not, I really do rely on fitness. So today I took a yoga class. Yesterday I did a spin class. I just think anything you can do to get your brain distracted by working out is helpful. But to your other question, cooking is my therapy. I don't just cook for work, I cook for fun. So I try to keep my work cooking kind of batched in certain days of the month so that I can normally also like make dinner that we actually get to eat that isn't, cold or sitting out. So I do cook in real life too. It's my passion for sure.
That's good. I don't share as much of that passion, which I wish I did.
It's awesome that you love to work out. I'm a former yoga teacher. I like to work out too, but I know, of course, as moms, we don't always feel like we have time, or, sometimes we feel a little drained. And there's ways that I just want to suggest massage, because as a psychologist and as a yoga teacher, I love massage, and it's maybe even a good Mother's Day gift if anyone's, looking for ideas, because that is a way that you can give your body, or, the intense experience, and even get some endorphins and, get some blood pumped into your muscles. Many of the benefits of working out without actually having to exercise the self-discipline. So Liz, cheers to you for exercising the self-discipline, truly. But if giving mom a spin class for Mother's Day, a little almost like giving her a vacuum perhaps. Liz, I know you weren't saying that we would give it as a gift, but just saying what you like to do. But if we're thinking of Mother's Day gifts, I'd like a massage. Because it's a way to release stress and get a lot of those working out benefits, but while also just getting that benefit of deep relaxation and just letting someone care for you. Because we as moms, we're always, caring for others. And it's so nice when we can find ways that we can receive that care as well.
I think for me, I always think about how cooking intertwines with both self-care and reducing stress. Because the one thing that's true is that everybody has to eat 3 or so times a day. So it's something that is, no matter whether you like it or not, is part of our everyday, unlike sadly a massage, which I wish could be. So a few things that I do, and this is honestly just me looking at the last week. And for example, on Sunday, I made my grandmother Ima Luba's Sephardic chicken soup. And it's just it's like Jewish penicillin. It's just a delicious chicken soup, which she actually tosses the chicken pieces with cinnamon and a little bit of sugar and lemon pepper and sears it. And then you just add carrots, celery, tomatoes. And then you add all sorts of antioxidant rich spices like cumin, cinnamon, turmeric, paprika, all the good stuff. And long story short, as that starts to cook, my entire kitchen smells like my grandmother's house. And again, I'm sure any of you watching this right now, I'm sure there's recipes that you make that, reminds you of your relatives, even relatives that are no longer with us. Cooking is the best way to stay connected to them. And my grandmother actually lives in Israel. And we obviously haven't seen each other in years. And when I make that soup, I literally feel like I'm in her kitchen, which I'm certain is good for my brain. I know it's good for my heart. And we have to remember that when we talk about all these things like massages and all that, if you're eating not so good food for you, that's not going to fix it. You really have to make sure you're nourishing your body every day with whole foods and really nourishing ingredients that, at the end of the day, I think what you put in your body matters so much. And we sometimes overlook that in times of stress, and we sometimes stress eat or reach for things that aren't so good for us. But, a delicious chicken soup really is the perfect example of something that nourishes you from the inside out, which at the end of the day, no massage can fix that if you aren't nourishing yourself first. And my pro tip to save time is to make a double batch, freeze half. so that a month from now, when things are more hectic than today, when you thought it couldn't get more hectic and it does, you can pull out a healthy dinner. My husband and I work from home, so that dinner becomes lunch the next day. And again, you're just nourishing your body and really taking care of yourself first, which moms sometimes forget to do.
So true. So true. I think having a good meal, like you said, Liz, on just a very basic level, right? Food, clothing, and shelter. Those are the things that we need in order to just feel safe and to feel nourished. And so when we can really get up close and personal with that process with our kids and our families of making, not just breaking the bread together, but even sometimes making it together, that is just, it makes my heart smile to think about that, Liz.
Thank you so much. I am really glad that you guys were here to chat with us about moms and breakfast. And thank you for everybody watching, for joining us. We're glad that you did, and I am looking forward to another month of our show. So follow along with Wolferman's on social media to get notified about some of our upcoming episodes. We have one coming up in May, which I'll give you a hint, is a little bit about fresh starts, which is great as we're starting to jump into spring. So I hope that you all had a great start to your day, and thank you, ladies, for joining us, and hope you have a very happy Mother's Day.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to dive into this French toast now.